Hi, I'm Nicholas Floyd, the author of 7 Nights with Ayahuasca, and this is the second video in my series regarding some advice before doing an ayahuasca retreat. In this video, I'll be talking about the preparatory diet, which is essentially a strict dietary cleanse that will help prepare your body for the potentially grueling task of drinking ayahuasca. The particulars of the diet will vary slightly depending on who you're talking to, but generally speaking, you're supposed to avoid alcohol, caffeine, sugar, salt, pepper, spices, oils, dairy, red meat, pork, carbonated beverages, and a long list of other things, some of which are a bit unintuitive. So, for example, spinach, which most people would consider fairly healthy, apparently is incompatible with ayahuasca. Why that is, I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically, but apparently that's what they say. Now, in addition to following this diet for the days that you'll be drinking ayahuasca, the retreat that I went to recommended following the diet for a week or two beforehand and also for a week or two afterwards as well. When drinking ayahuasca, there are some potentially dangerous contraindications with certain foods and especially with certain medications, for example, antidepressants. Some antidepressants contain what's called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or SSRI, and these are potentially fatal when combined with ayahuasca, so you have to be very careful not to combine the two. Any reputable retreat will give you a very specific list of things to avoid, so if your retreat did not provide you with this list, then I would recommend finding a different retreat, because this topic is not one to be taken lightly. Aside from mitigating potential health risks, I would also recommend following the diet simply because drinking ayahuasca can be rather brutal on your digestive system, and I think it's reasonable to assume that the state of your digestive system beforehand will probably have an impact on your body's ability to deal with the brew. I followed the diet for probably about 10 days or so pretty strictly before the retreat, and my innards still got rocked by ayahuasca. I had some really intense cramping and some rather heinous diarrhea, so I shudder to think what it might have been like if I hadn't followed the diet. In addition to avoiding certain foods and drinks and so forth, the diet also requires complete abstinence from all sexual activity, including masturbation. Now, long before I ever decided to drink ayahuasca, there was a time in recent years when I went for about a month without sexual release because I had heard that there were some reported benefits such as clarity of mind, increased creativity, increased energy, and so forth. None of those purported benefits came to fruition in my case, and the only strong effect that I felt was starting around day 2, my mind was completely and hopelessly preoccupied with sex. So the one benefit that I did get out of it was at the end, when I finally did masturbate, it was noticeably better than usual, but that was about it. So, having that experience, I was quite skeptical of the retreat's claims that sexual abstinence would enhance my ayahuasca experience, but as I mentioned in the book, I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I assumed that thousands of years of shamanic tradition probably produced more wisdom than my 20-something years of masturbating. So I went for 2 weeks or so without sexual release before I went down to the Amazon, and I wasn't surprised at all when we started drinking ayahuasca, and about half of my visions were nothing but raunchy psychedelic pornography. Now, don't get me wrong, I can get down with some psychedelic pornography, but that is not the reason why I had ventured to the Amazon. Now, you could argue that the pornographic visions in themselves have introspective value, and I'm not a psychologist, so who knows, maybe that's true, but I strongly feel like the pornographic visions, as titillating as they were, offered next to nothing in terms of introspective value. They just felt extremely empty and like a giant waste of opportunity, and I really feel like having all that pent-up sexual energy only detracted from my experience. So I would have to say that sexual abstinence is the one part of the diet that I actually strongly disagree with, and if you think that abstinence might hinder your experience, then I would recommend taking care of business in advance. Unless, of course, you're drinking ayahuasca specifically because you want to experience immersive, hyper-vivid psychedelic pornography, then by all means, keep that libido pent up in a pressure cooker and hold on for the ride, because it'll probably be a wild one. But you may want to reevaluate your reasons for drinking ayahuasca in the first place. So that's it for this video. In the next one, I'll be talking about dosages and the physical effects of the intoxication, so stay tuned.